Welcome to The Note, I'm Mica, and I'm wearing a comfy sweater. In an era where exclusive titles are becoming a little bit less frequent, one controversial strategy employed by publishers is to offer exclusive content via DLC or pre-orders. And if you want to know how Xbox feels about that, well, not too great. Xbox boss Phil Spencer spoke with GameSpot recently at the Brazil Game Show, where he had a few things to say about exclusive DLC. You know, despite Microsoft having employed the same tactics in the past with Call of Duty. Spencer said, "People always knock me on this. I've been on record, I don't love the idea or practice of us paying so other platforms can't play or use a certain gun in a game or do a certain level. I know I say that, and Xbox history, DLC exclusivity windows with Call of Duty, I understand the fingers are pointing right back to Xbox. I can only be who I am. It's not the best PR answer, but I don't like that." That still probably won't stop you guys from doing it if you can, I'm guessing. During the same interview, Spencer also talked to the possibility of crossplay, and he still didn't sound too hopeful that the situation would change anytime soon, although he's not ready to label it a lost cause just yet. Final Fantasy XV director Hajime Tabata has started to talk about his next project over the last few weeks. But before you get your hopes up too much, you should probably know it's not even in production yet. Tabata told Eurogamer at the moment they just have a small team on the game figuring out the technology and the release window. However, he said that Final Fantasy XV helped them lay a lot of the groundwork for what they want to do. So at least that decade of development did some good, right? In addition to that, Tabata also told Eurogamer that the new game will likewise be using Final Fantasy XV Luminous engine, plus he revealed that they'll somehow be making use of cloud processing. And no, that's probably not a hint that this is somehow related to Final Fantasy VII. Get on your surprised faces, everyone! Shadow of War's de novo DRM has just been cracked! And just like the other most recent rounds of de novo cracks, this one also happened within a single day of the game's release. So in terms of defense capabilities at this point, it looks like de novo is less Helm's Deep and more like the Shire. And it was similarly cracked in a record time for other recent games like FIFA 18 and Total War Warhammer 2. However, that hasn't stopped the game from doing pretty well in its first few days. So far, it has hit 63,000 concurrent players, and it's in the top 5 games on Steam. Hot on the heels of the announcement of the new $199 self-contained Oculus Go VR headset, we've got some announcements for some cool projects that might be hitting the platform. Titanfall developers Respawn revealed yesterday that they've got a new game in development for Oculus, and no, it's not Titanfall or Star Wars related. It's actually going to be a realistic VR war game. CEO Vince Zampella said yesterday at Oculus's Connect 4, the combat experience in VR really gives you the chance to experience life closer to what a soldier would experience in real combat. It gives you more of that feeling of paranoia and tension. It's more visceral and more terrifying. This untitled project will be releasing in 2019 because that's all what we need in our lives, more paranoia and fear. South Park fans eagerly awaiting the release of Fractured But Whole were given a special little treat this week because last night's episode of the series was actually a prequel to set up the game. The episode Franchise Prequel documents the characters slash supergroup Kun and Friends as they try to get their superhero franchise complete with crossovers and Netflix series off the ground. But of course, their rival Professor Chaos starts using Facebook to spread misinformation about them, which ends up in a showdown against a very weird Mark Zuckerberg, you know, because South Park. You can check out the episode on South Park's website or just, you know, wait for the game to get the full package. A few words on the side of a space shuttle and Kerbal Space Program have really pissed off some Chinese gamers. Why? Well, the phrase in the game used to read, "Without reaching moon, you are not a good male." But after some complained that the language was sexist, the developers changed the wording to be more gender neutral. But that made other gamers mad, and they accused the developer of bowing to political correctness. And then came the review bombs. But they might not be as effective this time because Steam has made some changes to combat that practice. On the game's page, we can see that according to recent reviews, it's got a mixed rating, but overall, it's still overwhelmingly positive. So can't we just all build our rockets in peace? Given how popular the Switch is, it's no surprise that we're starting to see a lot of games getting ported to Nintendo's newest console. Stardew Valley came out recently, and there are ports of Doom and Wolfenstein 2 in the works. Now, another developer says they're also eyeing the console. NetherRealm Studios creative director Ed Boon says that there's definitely a possibility that Injustice 2 might also come to the Switch. He told GameSpot, "From the game's player's perspective, would it be fun to play Injustice on the Switch? I do think it would. You could have tournaments, everyone comes over with their own system, and you can have whole structured tournaments and parallel gameplay and all that." Obviously, nothing is confirmed, but this is another good sign that the Switch's popularity is luring developers to the platform. And that's good news for people who like to play games on the go. Who doesn't want to play all their games on the airplane? I know I do. Cinematic universes are quite popular these days, and could we be seeing the beginnings of one for Pacific Rim? Well, Pacific Rim Uprising, the sequel to the 2014 sci-fi hit, will release next year, and its director said that it could be expanded into a larger universe. Stephen DeKnight, which is the coolest last name ever, was asked about more Pacific Rim movies in an interview with Nerdist, and he responded, "I'm certainly hoping so. If enough people show up to this, we've already talked about the plot of the third movie and how the end of the third movie would expand the universe to a Star Wars / Star Trek style franchise where you can go in many, many different directions." So we'll see what happens, but first things first, Pacific Rim Uprising, which stars our own soft boy John Boyega, will release on March 23rd, 2018. Thor Ragnarok hits theaters next month, and as we all know, he'll be joined by his big green buddy the Hulk. And according to Mark Ruffalo, it will be the start of a story arc for the Green Avenger that will span 3 different movies. Of course, Marvel Studios can't do a Hulk standalone movie because those rights belong to Universal, which is why Hulk is always part of a larger Avengers ensemble cast. And it'll be those larger group movies where the Hulk story arc takes place. According to Ruffalo, it will start with Thor Ragnarok and continue into Infinity War and end with the 4th Avengers movie. The arc will answer questions like what causes Bruce Banner to turn into the Hulk and how that evolves over time, so that sounds cool to us. Thor Ragnarok hits theaters November 2nd. We use AI to detect a lot of things these days, but porn stars? Yep, the future is here, everybody. Pornhub announced today that it's using machine learning to catalog its videos. It's going to use facial recognition software to detect porn stars and tag them with the goal of scanning all 5 million of its videos within the next year. Currently, it's up to industrious Pornhub users to tag specific actors in videos, and for that, you know, we salute them. Eventually, Pornhub wants to use software to identify not just actors, but which specific categories that video belongs in. So, yeah, while we don't have sex robots just yet, at least we have some robots who are going to be watching a lot of sex very soon. Will they need Kleenexes? How does that work? This can get really creepy really fast. I'm gonna move on. So here's a tip for all of you aspiring bank robbers out there. Don't be one of those, first of all, but if you do, before you do the deed, don't Google phrases like how to rob a bank first. Believe it or not, this has happened more than once, most recently in, surprise, surprise, Florida, where a 26-year-old suspect told police that he Googled how to rob a bank before he robbed a bank. Yeah, he's in jail now, and this isn't the first time this has happened. A few years ago, a couple in Colorado also used Google before robbing a bank. They were caught too. Gee, it's amazing how these criminal masterminds just all end up in jail. As for the one guy in Florida, he took an undisclosed amount of money from the bank, which he spent on utilities, rent, and a drug bench. You know, like you do, casual Tuesday. Anyway, dude, next time you should also Google how not to get caught. Or maybe use Safe Search. Pro tip. Well, that's all the news we have for you today, and remember, for more news from every corner of the internet, including the bank robbing ones, remember to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the Know. We news. I know I say that and Xbox history, DLC exclusivity windows with oh. Get on your surprise faces, everyone. Surprised faces. A few words on the side of, but after some complained, that's how you spell it.